Today I'm going to talk to you about two interesting subjects. The first one is reincarnation, or incarnation is used more often. Also, I was asked to talk about Telegony. In other words, how is it? Who remembers? The Rita laws. Right, the Rita laws, or in other words, the law of blood and heredity. It may sound funny at first, but it's not at all. Had you read some ancient stories, you would have come across some very ridiculous facts from our point of view. So let's discuss some of them from the Ramayana. According to some sources, the Prince Rama lived on the planet about 850,000 years ago. He was married with Sita. But demon Ravana interfered their happy life by kidnapping Sita. Ravana was infamous for raping women and generally for being a ladies' man. But once upon a time, a sage cast a curse upon him for such misbehavior. Thus, when Ravana would want to rape another woman, his head would crack into pieces or something of that kind. That was the curse cast upon him. That's why Ravana was not able to rape any woman anymore. Sorry for being so detailed. And once being kidnapped, Sita was kept in a garden and was taken good care of to gain her favor. But Sita didn't fall for it. Meanwhile, Rama mobilized a huge army and reached Sri Lanka, where Ravana lived. Then a big battle took place with a great amount of living beings being killed. By the end, Rama won and took back Sita with him. The first thing soldiers of Rama did was asking Sita to undergo a fire trial. So they made a huge fire and made her step into it. Don't you find it inhumane? It's quite a strange favor to ask, don't you think so? And anyone who doesn't know some existing energetic laws would think this way. But Sita was asked to undergo a fire test to prove her purity. Not a physical purity, but energetic purity. Because had Ravana penetrated Sita, she would have carried a Ravana pattern. That's why Rama's warriors couldn't allow such a demonic pattern enter their kingdom. With such a pattern, Sita could give birth to demons, even if the biological father would have been Rama. But in this case, Ravana would have been the energetic father, you see? Even though the names of the characters are quite similar and you might get confused, the gap between them is tremendous. They are actually quite opposite. Had Sita delivered demons, the kingdom would have been destroyed, because demons dislike peace and they need a show to go on, even if participants of the show don't want to be a part of it. That's not the only case. Many other examples show that virginity of a future wife was a big concern. And it's not a mere freak, it's quite explainable. And it was well known in ancient times that a first male, by penetration, starts off some biological mechanism to open up womanhood and maternity. This mechanism is way beyond the consciousness level of the mind. It's a deep psychological process. This is a knowledge proved by a large amount of cases. What I mean by these cases? Let's say a foreigner visits a faraway country where locals have dissimilar eye and skin colors. If any close interaction between a foreigner and a local girl happens, in months or even years, the girl delivers a child similar to the foreigner. The phenomenon is well known in modern time, since breeders of horses, dogs, pigeons make the experiments. The most representative case happened to a friend of Charles Darwin, whose theory of humans' evolution from apes you got to learn at school. So his friend, Lord Morton, made an experiment. He had a stable with horses and zebras. So he interbred a mare with a zebra, a pure-blooded mare with a pure-blooded zebra. He did his best, but failed. After some years, not days or months, but years, when he forgot about his idea to cross so different animals, he bred the mare with a stallion, and the mare delivered a foal, half zebra. The Lord was shocked. Same experiment was repeated for many times with the same results. That's how the Telegony phenomenon got determined. A first man of the woman passes over a deep energetic print. Many cases took place during the Olympic Games 1980 in Moscow. Many foreigners visited Moscow at that time, and young students engaged in relationships with them without considering the consequences. After some years, these already young women gave birth to babies who didn't resemble their biological fathers. Ignorance causes problems. That's why there were many problems, and still there are. Nowadays, the problems are even bigger. Taking into consideration the times we live in, physiological penetration is not the only trigger of this mechanism. The morality of modern society differs dramatically with, let's say, the society of 100 or 150 years back. You remember the times of Dostoevsky, Leo Tolstoy, counts and countesses. The big standards of morality described in books. Dancing or kissing a hand used to be almost a depravity. Well, for the past 100 years, some powers made great efforts to sort of educate the people. But the education went too far. Some European schools give even lessons on sex to children at 5 and above. They teach that sexual self-satisfaction is good for health. But it's not only harmful for health. Sexual self-satisfaction at young age results in underdevelopment and rudimentary. As all the vital energy gets wasted through the second chakra, which corresponds to sexual pleasures. If a child gets familiar with such pleasures, he gets addicted. Here is a scientific research of the subject. A lab rat was examined to figure out the zone of the brain responsible for pleasures. Then scientists connected an electrode to that zone to stimulate it, as the brain does when an animal experiences a surge of pleasure. Thus, the rat could feel a fake pleasure. According to the experiment, the rat got a surge of pleasure if it had pressed the button in front of it. In 99 cases, rats ended up the same: death of exhaustion. Rats did nothing but press the button again and again. In ancient times, people perfectly knew that kids addicted to the second chakra pleasures become their own hormones addicts. No chance to grow up sane. Sexual pleasures are based on hormones production. Hormone addiction doesn't lead to any goodness. Let's get back to the Telegony. The society had been corrupted to the point the majority of people make idols of some men and women to concentrate on. Do you know who's an idol? I mean, for example, some teenagers poster the walls with the images of certain pop stars. But future husbands and wives of such young girls and boys will have troubles, since there was a deep concentration on the posters. I think I have to elaborate on this idea, as you might not be getting me. In days of old, it was well known that developing strong concentration on gods and exchanging the energy with the divine imagery will benefit the future kids. The kid imparts the specific divine features, both appearance and character, despite the qualities of the father. It's a well-known fact in Vedic culture. These days, things are complicated when it comes to the Telegony effect. Young men start sexual relationship very early. As a result, second chakra is one of the chakras that gets activated at the earliest. So we hardly can track the source of the qualities of a child born under these circumstances. The Telegony effect applies evenly to both men and women. There is an example of how it works with men in Alexei Trikhlebov's book Legends of the Phoenix. The book contains a great deal of such examples. A lot of stories had been collected by the author to illustrate the Telegony. You can find the book on internet. In Russia, it was banned last year. Its circulation is illegal now. However, the book is very sane and motivates to think. Just search for Legends of the Phoenix, and on page 650-something you'll find information on Telegony. Around 10 pages in total, only. But you'll be very much surprised. Check out with the content. The chapter is called Telegony. So, here is a story from the book. In Soviet Union times, young men served in the army's units located in different republics. So one Russian guy served in Kazakhstan. That's the republic on the south, where Kazakhs live. For a long time, he served as a frontier guard in a remote zone. Once he discharged from the army and hit the road back home, he met a local woman at the station. According to a very strange Soviet and modern custom to drink alcohol, he was drunk. Under the stress of hormones and alcohol, the fellow had an intimate relationship with the Kazakh woman. In a state of drunkenness, whatever can happen, right? So, when the guy returned home in Yaroslavl region where his girlfriend had been waiting for him, they got married. In some time, she got pregnant and delivered a boy. The appearance of the boy was Kazakh. He looked like an ordinary baby from Kazakhstan. But there weren't any Kazakh people in the lost in the middle of nowhere village where the girl grew up. She probably didn't even know such a nation exists, but she gave a birth to such a baby. That's a fact. Present-day people find my talk boring and unpleasant, and I see why you find such ideas not interesting to listen to. It's easier to take the life free and easy. But from yogic perspective, you have to consider the future kids. I'm not speaking for the sake of it. I'll tell you what can be done. Even if you have already had relationships in the past, it's not a big deal if you understand the problem and make efforts to fix it. Once again, I want to emphasize why the Rita laws are very important. Life experience tells that sexual pleasures are attractive for thoughtless people only. Spiritual and moral men live on upper chakras. They are mildly interested in second chakra, but men with the consciousness level on the second chakra are very much interested in it. Their circle of interests lie within eating and sex. Such sex-addicted people are responsible for the society corruption. Are you following me? So now imagine, a depraved man or woman corrupts a decent person. They exchange the energy. And the depraved partner passes over his energetic pattern to a more or less decent partner. Then the decent person makes a good family with another partner, where the husband and wife love each other. But whom they give a birth to? The one with the second chakra mind level, due to previous partner with such thinking. So what's the deal? The matter is that such a family would be in trouble. It's a potential parents-kids conflict. The kid wouldn't comprehend what parents want him to do and how to behave. Let's say parents would insist on studying, but the kid would prefer having fun and would doubt them being his real parents. The kid would suspect himself a baby switched at birth in hospital and insist on investigation. I'm joking, but the subject is very serious. Let me say it once again. If you want to be happy, consider the law. If not, you will suffer with your kids. As you are young and don't see the law in work, I'm repeating once again. If parents differ from the kid in thinking and interests, both sides will try to fix each other. The child will get goats with his demands. What kind of demands will that be? The demands parents wouldn't like to meet, right? And meanwhile, parents will force the kid to drop his interests. In short, there's a conflict of interests. To avoid such problems, children and parents are to be on the same energetic wave, you see? Alright, now let's discuss the topic of previous relationships that arises frequently. I believe that you hardly can find people who had been virgin until marriage. Both men and women are depraved since the childhood. So how the previous relationship patterns can be fixed? What if one had 2, 3, 5, or even 10 partners in the past? According to the statistics, the majority of young people have up to 5 partners in life. Some individuals have even more, which is not very fine. The individual who wastes his life energy through sex will end up with troubles. The number one piece of advice for those who have already collected some karmic experience in this field: just don't worry. Really. You know that I'm a calm person. Rodnoveres are very much concerned to give birth to a person from their own family, right? But even if you do give birth to someone out of your family, take it easy. The amount of possible troubles are limited to your karma. According to the law of karma, all problems in life are determined by yourself only. It might be hard to believe in, if you take life as a sequence of happiness and misfortune, good and bad. The truth is that all the events in life are determined. Even if a misbehaving baby who originates from Mr. Petrov or Mr. Ivanov incarnates in your family, he's the one you need. You see the point? Indeed, being unlike you, your child is born to teach you some lessons, love and wisdom. So don't stress yourself too much. Relax. It's gonna be all right. Nevertheless, if you have a troublemaker baby at 20, you might get your hair turn gray by 30. So if you want to prevent gray hair, then practice yoga. Let's discuss the process partners start once get into a relationship. The second chakra is responsible for reproduction. You are adults, so I wouldn't explain the physical aspect of the relationship. On physical level, partners leave their essence in each other. Some even say that partners exchange hormones with saliva. So even mouth kissing starts the process. Penetration is not a must for the pattern exchange, you see? I forgot to mention that in old times, the strongest warrior could be asked to conceive a child with different virgins. Then, despite the qualities of the true husbands, these women delivered out of the original children. I think the 13th labor of Heracles in ancient Greece was about the same. Knowing of the particular qualities of the hero, one king invited Heracles to leave his semen for his 50 daughters. I'm not sure about the right amount of the girls, you can check it out yourself. I didn't pay attention at such details. The king asked for the semen to ensure many strong offsprings for the kingdom. Let's get back to the process we discussed. Energy exchange triggers the specific process. Yoga can help you change it. The first experience of any kind outstands among others. Do you agree? The first experience, be it taste or bodily experience, impresses the most. It's very much memorable. Such memorable experience you remember for long triggers the specific process. But a truly loving couple can develop their feelings to the point to overlap the previous experience. Stronger feelings can neutralize the first impact. Okay?
То есть он считается таким вот, как сказать, самым запоминающимся. Это и считается, что вот это так называемое запоминание и есть включение определенных механизмов. Если у пары
Yoga offers special tools, mantras, to cleanse up the second chakra. Have you had any previous experience? It's not a big deal, just practice yoga. There is nothing to lose, but many benefits.
Вот первое какое-то влияние. Понятно? С точки зрения йоги.
At year 20 or even 25, your parents might insist on your marriage or on having children. Even if you are not sure about it, parents stimulate their children to marry and have kids early. They doubt anyone to marry you later on. I'm sorry to say it, but that's how it works in society. So try to argument with such parents, even if you want to get ready for marriage. But if you can afford some years of self-development before partnership, then your flaws of the youth can be fixed up.
какое-то количество времени, лет потратить на свое саморазвитие, то вы
Even
можете
though I use
многое
the
грехи
terms
своей
flows,
молодости, так
be
сказать,
aware that everything in the
преодолеть. Но
world
в данном
is
случае, хотя я не говорю о
harmonious,
грехе,
and the flows
с точки
are the
зрения, что все это
experience
не
that allow
гармонично,
you
это
to
не
pay
грех. Это
off
тот
the
опыт,
karmic
который
debts
вам может
you
помочь
had for reason.
преодолеть какие-то кармические долги, которые к вам могли быть привязаны. Не просто так.
In old
Древняя же
times, when a
культура
man invaded a
существовала
woman against her
такая
will,
методика, а точнее
in
даже не
modern
методика.
terms, a
Были
sexual
случаи,
assault
когда в
took
древности,
place.
такие недалекие
No one
были,
would take her as a
вступали в
wife,
взаимоотношения
as
с теми,
people
кто не
knew
хотел
the
вступить в
Rita laws.
взаимоотношения.
The woman
Одно
would
время было.
stay
То, что
lonely
называется
all
насилие.
life
Если в
long.
прошлом такое было,
But in old times,
то,
there was
зная
a
вот эти
solution.
законы Риты, эту женщину бы никто никогда или эту девушку не взял бы уже в жены. Она бы всю свою жизнь была уже, как сказать, ну как это называется?
Such a woman could be handed over to Brahmins or
Тогда
sages.
таких,
Sages
такого
are
волха
wise men, guardians
отводили к
of
волхвам.
knowledge who could manage the
Волх,
energy.
волх это, понятно, кто такой волх? Волх, ведун, то есть мудрецы, которые следили за знаниями, у которых был определенный опыт общения с энергиями.
Such a sage could accommodate the assaulted woman, performed some appropriate rituals, and initiate her into specific practices. Once the karmic pattern was nearly erased, the sage married her off with a guy of his circle. It wasn't shameful. Sages could do so as they were masters of energy transformation and could take such a responsibility. Nowadays, such masters hardly exist. I mean, you can find some who name themselves as Brahmins, but they speak nonsense. I'm a yogi, and I have some notions of energy work to some extent. But I'm shocked to hear that fire and special prayers can clean up your karma. And it's not that I don't believe them. I'm positive such fire rituals are a typical fraud.
Если человек один наделал делов, то хоть ты плюй в костер, ничего не изменится.
If a person does wrong, he can even spit in a fire. It doesn't work. It's useless. A perfect way to deal with the mistake is to do so on your own. If a healer is involved in elimination of karma, then he has to take over the karma of another fellow on himself, doesn't he?
По крайней мере, в медицине или на эту тему хорошая книжка есть Лазарева «Диагностика кармы». Вот почитайте, пожалуйста, первую. У Лазарева много книг, но вот самое ценное — это первая, где он очень четко, доходчиво объясняет, что он был экстрасенсом.
He shares his experience of being a healer and physician using his extrasensory perception. He had practiced healing until he was diagnosed with cancer himself. The illness made him consider his activity. How is it even possible? He treated people, but he turned to be ill himself. Check out a good book by Sergei Lazarev, Diagnostics of Karma. It's a series of books. The most valuable is the first one. Now let's sum up the Telegony talk. It's of a big importance. If you already have some experience, then allow yourself 2 to 3 years' time to practice yoga, develop well your own energy potential. If two typical office managers meet up, imagine their energy fields considering 7 working hours in office daily, something like this. Now imagine same office managers who develop their chakras and work on the energy in general. Practicing yoga, you expand the aura. So the aura of these managers differ from the first example. So now we will compare the relationships of these two couples. What do you say? You admit that relationships are different even on energy level. The first couple might have heard such a word as energy, but only when they have to pay the bills at the end of the month. Meanwhile, the second couple is familiar with the energy flows. I've been exploring the topic in Moscow for the past 20 years or so. My eldest son is 16 now, so around 2-3 years prior to his birth, I started observing the kind of Rita's Moscow crowd. Those who approached a childbirth mindfully. They knew why they needed children, what for. It's a vast, complex subject. Some of the families had more than one child, others had 2, 3, 4, or even 5 children. If you see closer the parents who practice self-development and have children, you may come to a conclusion that energetic quality of children directly depends on the energetic level of their parents. Here is my example. I'm a father of 4 children, and I see the difference. It's only energy. Many other aspects differ as well. That's why I recommend not to hurry up with children. Don't invite a soul to your family. Focus on self-development first. Otherwise, you will end up with gray hair. That's it. Work hard for 2-3 years, and better children will come to you. Rodneves believed that a man invites a soul of his ancestor to be born. The line man, his father, his grandfather, his great-grandfather, and so on. Imagine. So the man is a conductor of the family energy, kind of. But, as you know, any family has both well-developed and underdeveloped souls, you see? That's why any kind of ancestor can be invited to be born now. He can be the one you will live in a harmonious way with all life long, or the troublemaker. The energetic potential of parents is the factor that determines your children's quality. There are both young men and adults among you. I'm addressing to the adults now. Does your life experience go along with what I am saying now? Is there any logic for you in my talk? There is, right? What I'm trying to deliver is this: don't hurry up with having sexual experience. You are fond of different types of partners at 15, 20, and 25. If you have a relationship with a girl at 15, by 30, when your world perception changes completely, you will have a child with the interest you had at 15. Don't you believe me? It's easier to close the eyes for the topic, but there is logic behind it. Do you have any questions? If you disagree, I'm happy to discuss it. Andrey, I have a question. How to get that right moment when it's time to invite a soul? 1 or 2 years of practice are enough? Yeah, I got you. Recently, I've got a question. I've received a letter from a guy, though the matter resembled the female writing, it was too emotional. He wrote, "After your lecture on Telegony, I don't want to have children anymore. I'm 25, my girlfriend is 20. You told us some frightful things. We don't like the idea of having kids anymore." Such a serious message I got. Here is my answer to your question. The childbirth is not a subject of our control. What you want doesn't always come true. The child can hardly be conceived on the day you calculate astrologically as a right one, you see? If I'm not mistaken, a female has a chance of getting pregnant only 5 days in a cycle. Specialists in female fertility can elaborate on the topic. They can be more accurate, but I remember it's around 5 days. I haven't researched much. But the pregnancy is determined by female cycle as well as man's ability to produce good semen for a successful conceiving.
Поэтому успеете вы в эти 5 дней попасть? Ну, возможно, шансов много. Кроме того,
You can prepare yourself and rely on astrological calculations, etc. But my idea is to be always ready. Man proposes, but God disposes. You know?
Можно составлять гороскопы и так далее. Но, как показывает опыт, вы лучше готовьтесь, нужно быть всегда готовым.
That's why I cannot give you an exact number of years you have to work on yourself, as we are all different. Some may have an immense amount of energy accumulated in the past. Couple of years or even a month of practice help access the energy sources. Others need 10 years and more. So I cannot give you exact recommendations suitable for everyone, such as 3 years of practice of Viparita Karani every evening or mastered Vipassana. No. Please, just do your practice. The more you practice, the more decent kid you will have. That's my message.
Чем больше вы будете заниматься саморазвитием, тем качественнее к вам придет ребенок. Я это хотел донести.
But even if tomorrow you're still considering yourself underdeveloped, you figure out that you expect baby, this is fine. Whatever you experience in life is meant to push your development. Though a kid with different values may be a tough experience, and such a long-lasting experience troubles a mom's life first of all. Women treat even their 30-year-old children as kids, and women suffer and cry if their children misbehave. How can I cut off the connection with the first partner? What can I tell you? Cut it off fast. If you are a newbie in yoga, there is nothing I can recommend. If you are experienced in energy transformation and energy development, then I could answer. But you are a newbie. How do you take my recommendations, such as pass the energy through your chakras up to upper levels or triple up the size of your aura? These are empty words for you. The only thing I can recommend apply efforts. Anyway, kids are beyond your control. They appear when they are destined to. Regarding the cut-off of the energetic ties, one believes that up to 7 years, the previous partnership ties stay active. Here is another technique I want to share with you. You know about gods, right? The Christians worship God as a form of excellence. The Slavs worshipped many different gods, so they could choose one suitable image among multiple forms to concentrate on, the one who represented their beliefs and interests. Once the object was chosen, the practitioner developed a deep concentration on the God image to exchange the energy. A relationship with the God overlaps any other, even not very good, previous experience. On the other hand, if you rely on gods only, without any personal efforts applied, it's a short-sighted attitude. It's lame.
Это тоже определенный, как не паразитизм, а...
Gods have their job. Responsibility shift onto someone else is wrong. The Slavs used to praise the gods, but they didn't beg for anything. The word Slav means to praise. the name derived from the custom. Begging gods is not appropriate. Anyway, if you find yourself in a situation that you have nothing to do but ask for God's help, then go ahead. Develop concentration of gods. There is a concept that the Christian God corresponds to Vedic god Brahma, the creator of the universe. It's one of many concepts that exist. By the way, such talks on gods these days are fraught by consequences due to the law article number 282 in Russia. Just for you to know. The God who answers your purpose might be considered as your distant relative. The Slavs are believed to be the offsprings of the gods according to some scriptures. The Slavs are the kids or grandkids of Svarog. I think there is some logic behind it. Well, work on self-sustainability. Don't just depend on gods. Practice yoga. You have all the chances to succeed. Your body is healthy. Don't you have 1 or 2 hours daily to practice? Of course you do. Your laziness builds up obstacles. Put it aside and continue. Any questions? According to the concept you mentioned, everything that happens in life is either the result of the past deeds or the cause of future. Thus, if I was born by a woman, I'll have to return her the favor? The Slav concept states that you don't give birth to parents, but to the grandfather, great-grandfather, etc. Then your grandkids might invite your soul again to re-enter the family. That's in case you are destined to be born in body on the earth again. I understood this part. My question is following. What if a yoga practitioner decides not to make a family and give birth to children? Does it lead to abandoned debt? No, it's not abandoned debt. If a creature doesn't incarnate in a human body, he can become a god, for example. And as a god, he will give birth to a child. Gods have offsprings as well. You see, people used to be classified in 4 castes, or 4 varnas. The prescripts for each group were strict. What we are discussing now, and what the Slav concept is based on, are the laws of Vaishyas. Giving birth to children and so on were strictly regulated for them. That's because the interests of the Vaishyas consider earthly life only. To survive on the earth, one has to have children. That's why such instructions were given to them. They must have children. You are a good Vaishya if you have 16 children. That's the way to develop oneself. These are instructions work for Vaishyas, but we all differ. This cannot be applied for sages or Brahmins, as Indians call sages. Just note that not everyone wrapped in orange is Brahmin. Thus, each caste had its specific prescriptions and rules. Anyway, nowadays, the Vaishya concept of big families is very much relevant. Only 3% of the planet population is white. If you don't contribute, your children, if any, will face difficulties. Soon white kids will be hard to find. I have a question on sages. Yes, please. Could you please tell more how Brahmins approach the kids' question?
Но все свое время Волх должен тратить с теми людьми, которые уже родились и живут на этой планете.
Brahmins take old people as their kids. There is no use in spending time changing nappies. Yes, they still might have one or two children as successors. But they'd better spend time with those who already live on the planet. The sages treat all people as children. To gain experience, Brahmins have some children, but it doesn't come out of his wish or mental intention. Man plans, God loves. You know it? So, Brahmins used to spend the time and energy on others. A baby requires a lot of energy to be dedicated to him. I hope I answered the question. My question wasn't unreasonable. My wife and I haven't made our mind on the topic yet. All right, make your mind. Let the gods laugh. That's the case. We try to avoid too much of thinking. Okay, any other questions? All right, let's move on. We are done with the Telegony. I hope you have understood the view and will consider it. Another interesting theme to discuss is reincarnation. The word derived from a Greek word. Incarnation means birth, embodiment. Reincarnation stands for spirit rebirth. The idea is old. Even Greeks had specific terms. What I can say on Christianity and reincarnation. There was Nicene Council in the year 18-something in Constantinople, modern Istanbul, the center of Christian life of that time. So one king of that time was in pursuit of one general concept of Christianity. First-hand disciples of the Christ were no more at that time. Thus, the king got together all the experts to come up with an idea of some Gospels to be good, thus canonic. Others are anathema, to be banned, burnt out, hidden, etc. If you don't know Christianity well, then I recommend you to pay attention at alternate Gospels or apocryphal Gospels. A lot of interesting can be found there. Why I recommend so? We live in Christian country. Sooner or later, you run into someone who'd like to preach you. The problem's that the less man knows, the more he preaches others. And you'll have to communicate with such people, so you have to know the basics. Though the Christianity as it is spread out well in Russia for the past 500 years only, the Christianizing process was gradual, I think. Overall, try to read the alternate Gospels to have the understanding of Christianity. So, some say that the idea of reincarnation had been present in Christian doctrine until the Nicene Council took place. After it was eliminated, after the Council, reincarnation was supposed to be unbeneficial for slaves' owners. The history remembers many stories of people killing each other if their city had been occupied by enemy army. That's the way to avoid a slave life. Possibly you have never heard of it, but that's the history. Archaeological surveys explored the ancient cities, where obviously men killed their wives, kids, then each other's, unless the lost man, a sage, committed a suicide. He had to control the process to make sure that even a single citizen didn't fall to slavery. You know why it was important? I can explain. It was well known in ancient times that the moment of death determines the future reincarnation. If you die as a slave, a Shudra, you might be Shudra again in future. That's why they decided to die willingly, to reborn in a good way. That's the pretty much reasonable concept of Vedic culture. The same concept is known among warriors. Scandinavian sagas, for example, narrate of warriors who took a death by sword as a blessing. Moreover, the Mahabharata describes the battle, and in Karna Parva, the 10th book of the epos, narrates of the 9th day of the battle on Kurukshetra. By the 9th day, the warriors fought knee-deep in blood. But at Rubicon Point, the hardest one, the sky got cleared off, and Apsaras appeared to escort the prostrate warriors to the skies. Apsaras are considered to be beautiful female creatures living on the skies who satisfy the man's desires. When alive warriors could see that it does work, they doubled the efforts, even biting each other's when the swords had got broken. They did their best to finish off the battle and follow the Apsaras. Indeed, the moment of death does matter. That's the reason why reincarnation was banned within Christianity. Be a good slave and you'll go to heaven. If you are a bad slave, you'll go to hell. That's one of aspects of the theme I believe in. If you have any alternate points of view, I'll be happy to discuss it further. If you are watching me online, please contact me if you have any alternate viewpoint. At least I haven't come across any other holistic concept. On regard of reincarnation, in all times, Jivatma believed to be covered in soul and reincarnated. Jivatma is undivided unit. It's impossible to eliminate it. Its existence is beyond time and space. The soul accumulates the life experience. All Jivatmas are the one. Souls are different because they collect different experience life to life under various circumstances. Soul covers Jivatma. Experience of the soul determines the circumstances, attributes, and the realm of each incarnation. Such a theory explains the difference in human appearance, social conditions, wealth, and poverty. These are all the result of previous human deeds. But just imagine how profitless this idea is, especially for the authority. The authority doesn't want to inform the slaves on reincarnation. Slaves are to obey the orders, even if they are criminal or contradictory. I mean, such orders as killing other humans, for example. The laws of reincarnation make some institutes shake. Such laws are not beneficial for them. Others may believe in reincarnation but deny karma. Thus, they allow themselves to do whatever they want, as they believe to be the children of the God. Actually, they name themselves in a different way, but it's not important. Do they believe in living anew every time? No, it doesn't work this way. So I hope you, as reasonable grown-ups, admit the concept of reincarnation. There are a lot of examples of reincarnation in Vedic scriptures. Read the ones available nowadays. Unfortunately, people tend to burn out books that don't go along with their beliefs. That's a way to get warm, I assume. It happens here and there. Many ancient libraries were burnt out for different reasons. That's why written Russian scriptures were destroyed. You all know why. Some bits of knowledge only are left nowadays. Some researchers state that Russia was baptized by sword and fire. Some state that there were the number of 9 million of dead victims at that time. I don't know the truth. That's their statement only. If you know anything on it, just let me know, okay? I admit this could happen, as people tend to destroy everything that goes against their views, to my great regret. Anyway, some ancient scriptures are still available. One of them is Mahabharata, that has been translated into Russian. I recommend you to read it to learn many interesting things. I will tell you some stories from the Mahabharata that illustrate reincarnation. Here is a story of Bhishma. Before his human incarnation, he had been a deity. He misconducted for the sake of his wife. There are various versions of translations of the misconduct. However, it's not relevant what exactly he did. One sage cursed Bhishma for the misconduct to be born as a human. Actually, he cursed all deities engaged in the misconduct. They had to be born as humans as a great punishment. Just think of it. Living on our wonderful blue planet is such a trouble for deities. They take it as a punishment. So they asked different gods for a mercy to escape the fate. No one but Ganges, the river, was able to help. The Ganges agreed to help. That's how she did it. Notice that the plan she suggested is simply beyond human mentality. She agreed to become the earthy mother to give the birth to the cursed deities. But once they would be born, she would drown them all but the last one. The last one was the initiator of the stealing of a unique cow, according to one version of the translation. Another version states they flirted with a girl inappropriately. That's why the last born deity had to stay on the earth. Others signed with relief. But Bhishma had to be born in this human world. He was the last deity. He was the initiator. Thus, he had to live as a human on the earth. I won't tell you all the details. Please read the book or watch the series to learn more interesting facts. Bhishma lived a long life. He made wars, and he was a great warrior. The reason of his death is another story of reincarnation. When Bhishma was young, he helped the kingdom. He abducted 3 princesses from their Swayamvara to ensure the heirs to his nephew. But one out of the 3 princesses had already promised her heart to another man, and she was supposed to choose him at the Swayamvara. She honestly told Bhishma of her deep love to another man, and Bhishma released her. But the woman was refused by that man, that arrogant Aryan, who claimed her to be unfaithful. He told her to go back to the house she had stayed overnight and didn't even want to touch her. I'm making up what exactly he told her, but I think his logic was of this kind, a logic of a stubborn warrior. All the warriors are very stubborn, by the way. So the ghost of woman returned to Bhishma and accused him of being the cause of her troubles. As her lover didn't accept her, she wanted Bhishma to marry her, but he couldn't marry the woman, referring to his vow of a lifelong celibacy. Thus, she went to complain her grandfather, the ex-ruler of the kingdom, an ascetic in a forest at that time. Notice an interesting fact here. Notice an interesting fact here. A retired governor of the kingdom lived in the forest. He didn't simply camp there, he stayed in an ashram. There used to be many ashrams in the forests, ales for self-development and preparation for coming reincarnation. Thus, her grandfather moved into an ashram to prepare himself for reincarnation under the guidance of sages. She joined her grandfather and told him the story. The woman didn't have any chances for a happy life in society, so she had been refused to marry her twice. No chance to get married anymore. So she had nothing to do but to practice yoga. What a blessing, don't you think so? That's why she found herself in an ashram. But her grandfather advised to seek justice at Parashurama, who is able to put Bhishma in his place. Parashurama is one of Bhishma's teachers. Thus, the woman approached Parashurama and made a complaint against Bhishma's injustice. Parashurama was a serious guy, so he challenged Bhishma to fight. They had fought for a very long time as equals, till the moment Bhishma was about to use a celestial weapon Parashurama couldn't fight off. Although Parashurama lost, he still had a mission on the planet to complete. He had to stay here on the planet. Therefore, the gods interfered in the battle and stated the failure of Parashurama but left him alive. As we see, the woman didn't succeed in taking a revenge, but she didn't give up. What she did? She started a hard penance to be born as a cause of Bhishma's death, and she managed. She was reborn as a woman who turned to be a man due to some reasons. His name was Shikhandi. Anyway, Bhishma knew his background. At Kurukshetra, Bhishma was proof against any weapon. There was not a warrior able to defeat him until Bhishma himself, voluntarily, would decide to ground arms. Shikhandi, a half woman, a half man, the cause of Bhishma's death, had to go before Bhishma to make him lose. As soon as he went before Bhishma, Arjuna shot Bhishma down. These are two examples of reincarnation. If you want to see into a matter, read scriptures. Many reincarnation cases are there described. Buddhist texts too offer loads of the cases. Why is it so important? A man without notions of the law of karma and reincarnation tends to live life to the fullest. The teenagers are advised to do so these days. What is significant is the first sigh of democracy had stepped into Moscow city, which is a tremendous amount of chewing gums spit right on the ground. Yes, we did chew chewing gums in Soviet Union as well. But by the year 1994 or 95, something clicked, and at the exits of the underground, the ground was suddenly covered by spit-out chewing gums. You see the point? People didn't even make some effort to throw the litter in the bin. They lived life to the fullest. What's the point of applying efforts to reach the bin? Way easier to spit the gum on the ground. When you walk along the beach, you see the broken glass? What's there in the head of a man who had broken the glass where people walk barefoot? Such a man doesn't consider the consequences of his deeds, and I find it a huge problem. According to some sources, reincarnation does take place. Since I've been researching the topic, I know many people who remember their past lives. I myself have gained some experience. Therefore, I can ensure that the theory of reincarnation is not an illusion or nonsense. It's a harsh reality. And ignoring it, you risk finding yourself in a tricky situation. Living life to the fullest will cause just enough trouble. The kind of trouble that you don't want. Though living life to the fullest concept might be still all right economic-wise, but afterwards bad times will come along. Now I want to share some rare information on reincarnation. You might find it interesting as such information is not well spread, and none of you, I assure, have never come across such facts. Why did warriors and sages engage themselves into self-development into the woods? As in the example of the retired governor practicing austerity I gave you. That's not the only case. Many others are there. Ancient scriptures quite often describe how retired rulers engage into self-development. A huge amount of examples. Were they dull to do so? What's the fun in living in the woods? Imagine a king retiree with a great deal of retirement benefits. What to worry about? But we come across the same stories again and again. There must be a reason behind such a strange behavior. I'll tell you why they looked for great yogis to guide their self-development practice to reincarnate well. This picture illustrates well the important processes. If you cannot see properly, here is a man with obsessions at different levels. Obsession depends on the level of his mindset, development, and mentality. Here are so-called charkas. Some do believe they exist, others have some doubts. We have nothing but figure it out on our own experience. So, here is an illustration. You see the Manipura chakra, for example, and the flowing out ray of energy that reaches the cake. If you stay at Manipura level, you are attracted by food. It's not about taste, though, but about the quantity of food you intake. You eat like a horse, sorry for such a comparison. You eat more, and more, and it's never enough. If you crave for the taste, then your level is Swadhisthana chakra. Every chakra has its own cravings. Thus, the illustration is rather a sketchy scheme of the different chakras' obsessions. And here is the point. The more man wastes his life energy on cakes and other foods, his energy flow reaches the Manipura chakra level only and flows out. That's where the hole in energetic body is shaped up. That's the leaky chakra. Yogis compare an energetic body of a man with an amphora with many small to big holes at different levels. Once the energy fills up the amphora, it will leak, like it or not. These leakages are called habits or passions. Something uncontrolled. Do you know what I mean? I'm talking of uncontrolled restriction. When a person says, I'm longing for it, and there is nothing I can do about it, he's addicted and cannot overcome the addiction. It means that such a craving will turn to be a great stumbling rock at the moment of death. Uncontrolled patterns will determine the future incarnation. If you tend to eat more and more, it means there is a gem situated just above the Manipura chakra, and no energy flow. Whenever there is an energy income, the person will be attracted by the bakery first of all. Are you following me? Free energy will determine the desires. The person cannot control himself in such a situation. Many years of living lead to many energetic jams. Thus, energy cannot flow up. The sages firsthand were very well aware of chakras as the gates to the other realities. Each chakra corresponds to a certain reality the consciousness can enter, leaving the body. The chakras are the gates to leave the body. A person addicted to the Manipura chakra can experience in meditation the reality corresponding to Manipura. That's the way to gain experience of the chakras. Such experience has been actually gathered. Quite big data indeed. I can share the rough classification well known in closed circles. Muladhara chakra corresponds to the hell, or the purgatory, or Gehenna, as Christians would say. Swadhisthana chakra corresponds to the world of animals. As a rule, animals are born through second chakra. Addictions can also be referred to certain realms. Let's say animals are interested in entertainment only, sex, immediate joy, and rapid-fire emotion. Animals are very emotional from this point of view. Manipura chakra corresponds to the world of pretas, as known in Buddhism. This world is known for bodily creatures who cannot satisfy their needs, such as hunger, and they starve to death. Even if they manage to find something, they still face troubles, and the cause is greediness. The hungry worlds exist because greediness exists. Manipura chakra, responsible for greediness, is a gate to such a world. That's the way for greedy people. Anahata is the world we all have been born through. That's the human world, the heartly world with the terms of good and bad. Human world is such a beautiful one, full of butterflies, wonderful sunsets and sunrises. So it's a central world, even heartly to some point. Still, there are also some narrow-mindedness present. A heartly person can be abused by greedy, hard, mean and cunning people. Heartly people are naive. They love all the world. I'm not saying that love development is bad. Love development is better than stuffing oneself with food, engaging in random sex, or being furious at the fans of the opposing football team. Love is better from this point of view. Still, if you get stuck here, there is nothing good waiting for you here after death. You have a question? I wonder what's the level of the powerful people, people in authority. There are two options. Either they are on the level of Muladhara and live by means of anger, or Vishuddha level, if they are used to command and rule. Does this correlate to Manipura level? No, it doesn't. Manipura is a level of good sales managers. They can pitch anything to anyone. They think in terms of benefit. They are easy to identify as their interests are quite certain. Tell me what you like and I'll tell you who you are, that's the case. Vishuddha is a level of chiefs and rulers. They dispense commands to others. Owners of a well-developed Vishuddha chakras are top managers these days. Earlier, they were warriors, but the current real war is an economic field, right? So now they are into corporate raids. And they engage themselves into that as they are not aware of the law of karma and live life to the fullest. Anyway, it's not bad, as higher chakras help overcome the addictions of the lower level, you see? Higher chakras cannot free from the stupid addictions, but they give opportunities to serve the society. How does the society benefit from the man on Muladhara level? He can only crush the head of a football fan, that's it. Or how does benefit the society a man on Svadhisthana who's in love with this girl or that girl? A man on Manipur is able to earn some welfare to his employer, yes, and gain some blessings to become the employer himself in the future and exploit other slaves, but that's it. A man on Anahata is more involved into society. He can save a dying dog by sponsoring a surgery or giving some pills to prolong its life. Or he can help a sick kid. It's a humane level. But please don't take me wrong. I'm not stating that helping a sick kid has no value. For a certain level of development, that's the way to go. By helping others, such humane people get free of greediness, attachments. Money donation is overcoming Manipura limits, and that's great. But yogis are recommended to follow another way. Instead of helping the sick, yogis help the healthy not to fall sick. It's better to prevent by spreading the knowledge, not treating sick people. If a yogi gets engaged into treatment, there won't be any work left for those who need to treat for personal development. The yogis has to follow his path prescribed for him and not to interfere with others' duty. Ajna chakra is the last chakra we can manifest. In the illustration, you see the metaphoric image of pain and easel corresponding the ajna. It doesn't mean that all the artists are the creators, far from all. The artists are used to stay for very long at the second chakra, Svadhisthana, by the way. This metaphor is about creation. Ajna chakra is a tool, along with available tapas, to change the reality. And something that didn't exist appears benefiting others. By the way, evil genius, such as a nuclear bomb inventor, do exist as well. Could you just imagine the potential one has to have to invent such a bomb? Thousands of people died. People who change the reality don't necessarily do it for the benefits of others. Their view might be materialistic and pragmatic. Thus, my friends, energetic gems determine the future incarnation. If a warrior is used to show temper after death, he will find himself in a world that Buddhists call a world of asuras or demons. That's the realm of gods, demons battles. I recommend to read Mahabharata for a better understanding of this issue. Demons are creatures on Vishuddha chakra with a great deal of accumulated potential. But there are certain limits they get stuck in. That's why they act strongly but very silly. They challenge the battles for justice, the justice as they take it. Incarnation through Ajna chakra guarantees a more or less decent rebirth. That's the world of gods or creators. But that's very hard to reach. And you know why? If a man has some potential in this life, he will use it out. Using his potential in the world leads to tying many karmic knots with others. Are you following me? Are you talking now of akarma? No, not at all. I mean akarma as a sequences-free action. There will always be consequences. I will give you an example. You see the hotel over there? Here is the story of that building. One guy had bought a land in Crimea. Actually, he rented out some land on the seashore for 20 years. Skipping details, I'll say that his friends formed embankment in the water as a foundation for the house. The house is literally based on the sea. The seashore is still rented out, but they enlarged the square by peeling up the embankment to erect the house. My question is, did the guy act in akarma? I doubt so. He had some self-interest in mind. Of course. Still, had he built it up to treat ill kids? Do you think that treating kids isn't marked by self-interest? Selfless aim is hard to find because any activity is material. Listen, any material activity in the world has an impact. Any. You might object. And indeed, if the house I mentioned above benefits others, then the owner will get his benefits too. But if the house is used as a site for entertainment only, then the founder and the whole bunch of involved builders will have to get through the same entertainment. Whatever you do to others will get back to you. It's as simple as that. Now, let's get back to the resigned king who practiced in an ashram. Had he have some gems within, and he didn't like the idea of falling into some realms after death, he would come to yogis saying, "I'm so-and-so, such and such," though the yogis knew it all well. They provide with a modest place to stay and, for example, give some scriptures to read for some 100 times to start with. And the king followed the instructions and read scripture, and helped with housework like water delivery for the yogis. Can you imagine? We are talking of the king who had used to live in a luxury and had to deliver water for others and wash their feet. Such an austerity, just imagine. That was the way to overcome the personal limitations. Indeed, that's how it worked. Question. Can we shift the energy up and down the chakral system during the lifetime? Yes, we can, and it happens all the time depending on karma and the network. There is a war going on in Donetsk region, right? In war, the one chakra only is activated. Guess it. Right, the chakra of surviving, Muladhara chakra. Such a person is up to anything to live. All other functions are off. Yes, you can find some parasites at war. Second chakra can be on as well. And looters have the third chakra active. You can recognize them by the carpets on the military carriers. But the first one dominates. That's anger, hatred, confrontation, fight and struggle. That's how the energy is manifested, through the first chakra, unfortunately. What was your question about? Whether we can shift from one chakra to another during the lifetime? Yes, we can. So now both sides warriors in Donetsk are on Muladhara chakra. Anger, hatred, murder, that's it. But when the war is over, the soldiers will get back home, some of them as heroes, others as loving fathers. Others will demand the beloved ones to cook chicken after 2 months of field rations. You see? Now you are in a yoga camp with more or less positive ambience. The camp is not perfect, but it's free from negativity and corruption. I hope so, at least. At least at my corner, over there, it's all positive. Realized or not, the ambience uplifts your consciousness. If additionally you apply efforts in the morning practices, certainly you will change your aura and will return home renewed, seeing the world in different colors. Why did you mention morning practices only? Because morning practices are the most difficult part. Who attends morning practices here? The most persistent campus only, right? How easy it is to get up in the morning, take off the sleeping bag and rush for pranayama. You find it easy? Those who prefer such an easy option, they are rewarded. Morning pranayama is the best way to accumulate energy. Such energy influences your subtle inner world. First, the energy is accumulated at the surface surrounding you. Then slowly it goes deeper. The inner energy is the one that determines your life twists. Andrey, how to overcome the addictions and level up? Are there any tools apart from yoga? I see its benefits, but I know that I won't practice. Even if I want to, I won't. People used to be divided into 4 categories. They approached the subject differently. Not necessarily all of categories have to engage in yoga. Yoga cannot help unless there is past life's experience in yoga. If not, you cannot make such a person practice, no matter how hard you tried. It's not in his nature. What are these 4 categories about? Shudra is the first. It's a Sanskrit term. We'll stick to it as it's short. At these territories, such people were called untouchable. Then, Vaishya comes, artisans, businessmen, etc. Kshatris are next. They are warriors. And then sages, those who spread the knowledge. But keep in mind that these are real sages, not dressed-up ones. Don't mix them up. I remember a funny motivational poster on the topic. You remember the famous horse theatrical of the Soviet Union times? One actor stood up, another one bent forward and held the waist of the first actor, and both were covered by the horse theatrical. So the motivator I'm talking of pictured 2 actors dressed up as a horse with the third one dressed up as a sage on top. The title was, "Do you really think our ancestors were so strange?" No, indeed they weren't. There used to be a lot of real sages in ancient times, not dressed-up ones. But nowadays, I take any so-called sages with suspicion. Don't pay attention at the words of a sage, but see his lifestyle and his family. That's very illustrative. So back to 4 categories. Different requirements applied on different categories. I told you yesterday that Shudras are those who had adopted an idea of living life to the fullest. So they had wasted out all the energy they had, left out at 0. Once they were reborn as Shudras, they were prescribed to serve others, as they are not able to control themselves. They have to serve those who can control themselves. This is the way to evolve in a form of Shudra. Nothing else can help. Whatever the amount of money you donate such a person, he will blow the money on addictions. Hard work only can be transformational force for him. Vaishya. They are good at craft work or business. They are involved in some work. Still, they find self-development hard. You know why? Tell me, what's the difference between a Shudra and a Vaishya? Different amount of time handy? No. In previous life, Shudra used to believe in the idea to live life to the fullest for 100%. But Vaishya also did, but for 50% only. Thus, Vaishya wasted out his potential, but still had some left handy. That's why the skills are with him, and he helps the society and has a decent living. Kshatri has more awareness, though A modern kshatri didn't make it too far. Moreover, there is a theory that now Shudras strive to rule. I mean, the least adequate people tend to seek to gain more power. But traditionally, kshatri shares living life to the fullest attitude at 30%. The other 70% is the idea of serving the society, adopting such terms as dignity, duty, etc. The Brahmin is supposed to deny living life to the fullest concept and 100% commit to the society. Therefore, you have to identify yourself and think well. Shudra cannot practice morning pranayama for even 5 minutes, as they have too many other important interests. Vaishya is more adequate, but he lacks the experience in practice. The trick is that the more you waste on pleasures, the harder you find yoga practice. You may object and point out the example of some yogis who can both tie themselves in knot and be guided by their passions. Indeed, such exceptions exist. I haven't met myself, but I assume so. The idea is that it doesn't work for the majority. The majority, who has the problems in legs, which is a sign of a strong flow of apana we discussed yesterday, has nothing to do but to serve others. Physiological issues don't allow to practice. If a Vaishya cannot practice, then he's advised to donate money to support those who can practice and develop themselves. That's how the donation system appeared. If a man is not capable of helping the society, then he donates to those who can develop themselves, you see? Kshatri is easy to get motivated for self-development by correct question. Ask him, do you want to be the strongest? And he would say, I am the strongest. But would you like to be even stronger? Of course I do. Strength is a tactical advantage. It's the right time to tell him about pranayama, stretching, to improve his punch. That can inspire to practice yoga. When it comes to a Brahmin, unless he's stupid, he knows well, if there are no efforts, there is degradation. I'm repeating once again if you haven't got it yet. If a man doesn't practice regularly, he's on the downward path. That's the law of the modern world, as the dominating energy of our realm is descending. Like it or not, living in the society without any self-restoration leads to degradation. That's the guiding force of the society, you see? That's why the Brahmins have to put in the efforts not for themselves, but for others. Society influences each and every person, and vice versa. Every individual impacts the society. If 100 people roll down the mountain, but only one climbs up, this one can influence the others. According to the statistics, 3% of the population determines the society lifestyle, 3% only. Thus, if these 3% are into self-development, sane and wholesome people, the society will get changed. Do you have any question? I have a question about chakras. All chakras are to be used in a harmonious way, right? Or we turn them on once passed? I mean, we might need all of them in different cases. When we want to give, chakras actually work to avoid situations of giving. I do mean it. If your chakras work properly, you never face a conflict situation of sexual harassment or feeding. It cannot happen. All the troubles in life come from energy and chakras imbalance, you see? They are to be harmonious, that's true. I've mentioned only negative sides of chakras. There are positive ones, let's consider them. Muladhara stands for health, endurance. A man with a pure and developed Muladhara never falls ill. He's all good when it comes to physical health. Pure Svadhisthana manifests itself in poetry, creativity. A good, not just intellectual writing, requires pure Svadhisthana. Manipura is responsible for memory, mental power. People of keen intellect dwells here. They think in terms of numbers, pragmatically, which is quite helpful in life. When it comes to anahara, it's all clear. I have mentioned good things only, love, etc. Attachment is a negative aspect here. That's when you're going crazy over someone, or a parent blind love for a child. Despite a child's crossing a line and a high time to stimulate Sahasrara by a slap, a parent keeps pampering the kid. That's blindness. Vishuddha is about rationality. Well, these three levels are the most troublesome. Greediness, addictions are here. Had people lived on three following high chakras, the society would be perfect. These are the chakras of sensible and understanding people who live in a harmony. These three lower types are stimulated and supported, but everyone suffers from these lower three types. Let's consider the harmful effects of alcohol. Could people live without alcohol? Yes, they can. But the amount of suffering alcohol causes is incredible. The population is driven in a downward spiral with a booze. I've come across a video by Nikita Mikhalkov. The movie is something to do with the sun. I can't remember the movie title now. Burned by the sun? Yes, I think so. Burned by the sun. So, some guys did watch the movie and made a footage of scenes with alcohol and cigarettes. The result is unbelievable. I assume there are around 50 scenes with actors drinking or smoking. You see the point? That's the commercials. Where it leads? The commercials of such products lead to apartheid. Genocide means a destruction of the majority by the minority, and apartheid stands for the annihilation of the majority by the minority. Thus, to my great regret, the director of the movie supports the apartheid of the planet. And that's not the only movie of the kind. To my great regret. Meanwhile, each and every suffers from alcoholism. There is no a single sane person who enjoys a company of an alcoholic. By the end of the day, troubles only. What are the rules of the planet to allow such things happening? Tell me. I have a question. Yes, please. You didn't tell us about Sahasrara. Sahasrara is out of reincarnation system, at least according to the scriptures, as I myself haven't experienced Sahasrara at work in this life.
И получается, что же за правители на этой планете, если они позволяют такое происходить? К моему большому сожалению.
Anyway, scriptures state that Sahasrara is responsible for spiritual experience. Other chakras are designed to allow a human to gain some experience of the world or subtle realms. If he exits through certain chakras, Sahasrara doesn't fall under this category.
То Сахасрара, она уже не относится к этой категории. На схемах там даже рисуется, что
Even Sushumna is somehow different when it reaches Sahasrara, according to the schematic illustrations. That's way too specific. You said that when a soul exists through Muladhara, it enters the hell, and through Svadhisthana enters the animal world. What about the world of plants? The world of plants must be somewhere in between of these two, certainly not higher. When it comes to the plants, please understand that there is one jivatma for all species of the plants. Let's say you carry 10 carrots in a bag. It doesn't mean you are carrying 10 different jivatmas. Have you run across a Slavic concept of a watermelon god, carrot god, beetroot god, haven't you? That's how it is designed. Each species of the plants has one core jivatma, responsible for all, let's say, carrots on the planet. That means that when you eat up a carrot, you don't kill the whole carrot species. Moreover, if your living benefits others, then the carrot species gets the cut. You see? Carrots themselves can do nothing, but they sacrifice themselves for those who do benefit the world. Clear? That's how it works with the plants. The Slavs believed them to be the gods, such as a carrot god or a watermelon god. I'm not sure myself. Whether they are gods or semi-gods or someone else from the subtle world, a subspecies of the gods. If that's the case, then the reincarnation happens in high realms. Could you please comment the rebirth as a stone? Hard to say. It seems to be very harsh, long and slow.
Тогда они туда должны перевоплощаться где-то довольно высоко. Кого? Минерализация не могу сказать. Что-то такое очень жесткое, медленное и длинное. Короткий важный вопрос. Много лекций твоих пересмотрел, практически все. Никогда ты не называл книгу по карме. Подробно есть какая-то книга или нет?
No, there is no. Karma is an unspeakable secret. I have an important question. I have watched almost all your videos, but I have never heard you mentioning a book on karma. Is there such a manual on karma or not? To avoid the lessons. Mrityu Loka, the world we live in, has been designed to provide with lessons. You are asking whether there is a cheat sheet. I'm telling you, there is no such a sheet. Your life is the great exam. Every day you have to pass it. You yourself can gain the understanding of karma process if you have a long memory. For that, you have to stop listening to the modern music. What is a long memory? I mentioned current music as a negative factor of long memory, as it makes a person to remember some bits of yesterday, some bits of today, but nothing from the distant past. Such an effect is achieved with the help of the rhythms. Don't take my word for it. Just search for influence of the rock music on man. Just don't be lazy. Dedicate some 3 hours and get through some article. The most valuable articles are not on the top positions of search engines. Internet is mean, and it reveals the bad karma. Top 5 or 10 positions are likely to be superficial and crap. There is an idea that half-truth is promoted for purpose to cover the rest. That's why I recommend to spend at least 1 or 2 hours searching the Internet to get the precious bits. So get curious about the way modern music influences the human being. If I'm not mistaken, that was the year 1928 when the Rockefellers commissioned their scientific study on the music effect on a person. That was a great study. Among all the rhythms, researchers chose the most significantly influential ones. And by the year 1956, I think, the whole musical industry had to use certain frequencies to impose on the society. These are open facts from Internet. That's why the fast-beat modern music dulls humans and makes them primitive. That's why I recommend to avoid modern music with its fast rhythms, to train yourself to remember better the past 5 and 10 and 15 and then even 20 years. Thus, you compile information on different categories of people. You could track the development of a person, understanding his life interests. Then you could track a couple of them, then 3, 4, etc. Over time, you'll get the statistics of how life treats people with different mindset. That's the way to explore the law of karma. But it takes time. Step by step, you'll be able to see through. As I already said, had you been able to see the law of karma clearly, you'd have a smooth life in this world. What I can add here is that the energy of a person does influence on the way the law of karma is applied to him. The law of karma was applied in different way to these 4 castes in the past. They were judged on the right basis. Shudra was judged differently from Vaishya, Vaishya differently from Kshatri, and Kshatri differently from a Brahmin. They all were declared as guilty or not guilty on different bases, and the reason is following. The energy of a person shapes up the consequences of the action, but not the energy only, but the lifestyle in general. Even if a sage has committed the misconduct, he has chances to ease the consequences by following righteous deeds. Kshatri has fewer chances. Vaishya hardly has any. Shudra is out of question. Please observe, work on your energy, and over time you'll put together a puzzle. Any other questions left? Could you please comment on the suicide that, let's say, Japanese samurai committed? How does Vedic knowledge and the Vedas approach such things? You are talking of harakiri. That's an ancient Aryan principle of releasing the energy to Iri. Slavs believe Iri to be a paradise. There is information on this in internet. Search for harakiri, meaning Slav harakiri or Aryan harakiri. In short, people who didn't accept the failure performed harakiri. The major energetic center for the warrior is hara. They accumulate the energy there. That's their way. That's not the case for Brahmins or sages. Hara plays a major role for the warriors. But it's better to develop oneself in a harmonious way, you got me? The warriors need it. They have to be strong, powerful, and a little bit strange to defend the motherland. Ugliness is even encouraged to horrify everyone around. What about a future rebirth of such a warrior? Yes, I mean, he will be reborn in the same caste. I would say yes, if he hadn't committed any misdeeds and died from his own sword. Still, don't try it. I have to warn you. I'm a theoretic on this topic and make judgments based on scriptures. I assume such a rebirth is possible, though it's a total stupid waste of time. Anyway, a man decides to commit a suicide when he's not able to overcome a life lesson. Sooner or later, according to the law of karma, you'll have to face the destined case you had tried to escape from. Anyway, you'll have to learn the lesson. I'd recommend not to avoid life lessons and back down. Try to go on, no matter how hard you think the situation is. If your heart is broken and you think of drawing yourself, think twice. That's not the limit. Others get through way more harsh situations in life, trust me. Killing oneself is a pointless waste of time. It's not recommended under any circumstances. Do you have any other questions left? Andrey, I have a side question. You spoke of the topic, so I want to know your opinion. When it comes to a carrot, it's all clear. A carrot cannot teach anyone yoga, but its sacrifice can benefit others. I wonder how it works with milk in a frame of instant conflict between vegans and vegetarians. Vegans stand at the point that milk cannot be digested properly. And Mr. Tarsunov states that milk is goodness. Yeah, some say that a cow offers milk with love. The calf, being weaned first, at a long run can benefit too, sacrificing the milk of a human. I cannot make a decision on my own, but I'd like to figure out, what do you think of this? You are seeing as if it's all in your hands. Try to maintain such a diet. See if you can. The idea of a vegan diet came from the West. There are no vegans in India. Indians tend to drink milk. The reason is industrial milk production. I mean, concentration camps where a cow gets enchained once born. Watch the Earthlings to get the idea clearly. No sense in retelling you. But I didn't mean the sadistic side of the issue. But it's all interconnected. Why to skip it? Because there are home-based livestock. Let me explain first. Knowing the whole system of concentration camps where people refuse to support the system from the ethical point of view, you see? There are other vegans who base on the researchers that milk cow is not appropriate for a human. That's their way. Others may continue drinking milk, believing in the concept of a cow sacrifice. That's their way to believe. Try it yourself. Change the diets and see how it works. We are all on different stages of development. There is no universal recipe. It's no use in forcing anybody to turn vegans. You know what might happen in that case? I do. They will end up in a restaurant swallowing up beef burgers. Because if a Vaishya limits the tongue satisfaction, he collects up the energy, and one day he finds its way out. At the point of energy accumulation, an energetic sphere is formed at certain level. A Vaishya doesn't practice anything, thus he is not skilled to push the energy further up through the channel, through the energetic channel. That's why sooner or later the energy will wrap him in a bow. Could he practice some yoga, the channel would be cleansed up, and the longing for, how to put the verb, eat in a negative aspect. Stuff oneself? Right. So if he doesn't stuff oneself with a cake, the energy, which is a universal energy, neither good nor bad, the energy will make its way up to next level, to anahata. And what next, who knows? He will fall in love, you see? Same energy. Imagine 1 kg of energy on this level pushes to fractionize only. On this level, it pushes to stuff up the belly. Here, energy manifests in love. Here is one more reason why I recommend to love instead of stuffing oneself. Anger takes a 0.1 second or a 1 kg of energy to flow away. If you have a 1 kg of energy, after a rage stroke is gone because of such a big hole in that chakra. Sexual pleasures make energy flow through Svadhisthana chakra in 5 seconds. You feel passion, energy flows out, 5 seconds. That's it, no energy. One day I'll tell you where exactly it flows to. It must be interesting. Same 1 kg of energy will be wasted through Manipura chakra in 5 hours, for example. 5 long hours of eating up to lose the same amount of energy. On heart level, the same 1 kg of energy will last a year as flowing out in a very graduated way, but totally different experience and quality of life. Even more rationally, energy is used on Vishuddha level. Thus, the higher evolution level of a person, the more efficient his living is. Same energy, habits are the issue. more habits have been formed in past lives, it's harder to overcome them. Hard, but doable. What can be done to overcome the tendency? Your opinion. Yoga practice can help keep up the frequencies. There are plenty of books on yoga. Go to a bookstore, buy, read and practice. How many actually do it? Then what? Practice. Internet is full of yoga videos. How many actually practice? Willpower? We have to apply effort. Good karma? Come on, you're so close. Asceticism? That's a tool too. Desire? Mindset? Willingness to self-develop? Tapas? No, you are still in clouds, guys. I'm talking of guru, as they are called in the East. That's a guy with a stick who can get you in a tight corner, shake you up well, and make you practice. I'm joking, but to some extent, actually. You're told of injury prevention in yoga, but a true teacher would treat his disciple as such in all, and he's free to use a stick to help the disciple to cleanse up the energetical channel if needed. You know, Iyengar, in his book or in one of his interviews, mentioned to be criticized to beat up his disciples with a stick, which is visible part of the matter. He said, "No one sees what I take over, and I'm all itchy." He speaks the truth. It's an emotional way to put it, but it's true. Indeed, a teacher causing troubles and discomfort to disciples eliminates the problems in their lives. Well, there must be a teacher. That's way to go. You are motivating us. I myself am a bad teacher. No, you're not. I am for 100%. You need a good one with a big stick. I don't have the one. So look for the one who can be after you. Fun is fun, but get free from addictions. Self-acting is almost impossible. Passions you have wastes up the energy. But where the energy goes, it can't simply vanish away. If you lose some energy, there must be someone who receives it. There are creatures called energetic parasites. As an example, what are the names of parasites who cheat out of energy with sexual pleasures? Who know? Succubus? Right, there are two classes of energetic parasites. Succubus and incubus. One is specialized on parasiting on women, another one on men. Just search for some information on them. I also recommend to watch a movie Branded, if you want to understand the nature of desires. The movie wasn't produced by enlightened people, but they did what they were paid for. Watch it to learn how the commercials influence the society. It's good to know where the society is driven to. To put the long story short, the movie is about a guy who, after one Jewish ritual, started to see clearly the energetic parasites around who suck in the energy of humans. When a so-called beloved woman hugged him, he saw a huge snake longing for the energy, for example, and so on. It's worth watching. They pictured the reality. There is always another reality that differs from the material world we are used to perceive with our own eyes. When you are longing for something, be sure there is someone around you pushing you to satisfy his hunger. Not just for fun, though. There is the law of karma behind it. A decent person wouldn't attract an energetic parasite. If a person owes something, he'll be asked for return. I told you how it works, I hope you remember. I want to elaborate on the following. Why it's so hard to overcome the energetic pressure when a lump is formed? You hold it on again and again, then boom, a breakdown, and you end up eating up a junk food, or shamefully stuffing oneself with a 2-month food supply after a long fasting, right? Classically, the energy goes upwards, filling up the lower chakras first, starting with Muladhara. Here, you have to overcome anger patterns in your mind. If you manage it, then the energy goes further upwards. On Swadhisthana level, you feel interest in opposite sex. If you manage the energy and don't waste it here, then you'll feel longing for food at next level. If you consider Swadhisthana level easy to pass, as you find preoccupation with females and males beyond your dignity, but Manipura can be an obstacle, as eating up is not considered an evil in the society, right? What's the deal to eat up a cake? A friend of mine told me a story. He controlled his longing for food till one day he went to bed and woke up in the kitchen stuffing up with a parent's sausage. I'm all serious. It's not easy to control oneself. So the points are, the lower chakra is located, the faster and with less use you waste the energy through it. Higher chakras offer more rational and more efficient way of using the energy. Higher chakras can be even beneficial to others. What's your question? Whenever I feel bad, I tend to use my partner to power up myself. I've already met the concept of vampiring, but I cannot overcome it to protect him. I simply cannot control myself, though I see clearly that I'm kind of a vampire. Keep a diary. If you see the problem you cannot control, note down what you do every time. After some 20th entry, and then analyze, you'll figure out the button to push and hold on. So write down to think over. That's the only way. At least the only one I know that encourages self-control. The topic is very curious. What I've told you is information for the first grade only, some basic energy security rules. The most interesting things on energy awaits further on. As chakras work, can harm you. They can benefit you too, once under control. But you have to control yourself prior to chakras management. That is a tricky part. Not all are capable to manage themselves. The majority gets captured by addictions and find themselves in a point when everything is clear but nothing can be done. Giving up and self-acceptance are a lot easier, right? All right, my friends. This part of the talking is over. Any questions left? I have one. What is love in terms of family relationship? Is it a longing for energy exchange on anahata level or any other? What about self-development in a couple? Or sooner or later we will end up in and of ourselves? It's a difficult question, as 4 classes of people we discussed above relate to the matter differently. Ideally, we have to strive to a perfect picture. Let me describe such ideal relationship, which is hard to achieve nowadays. Still, one has to strive to it. In ancient times, parents looked for partners for their kids since their childhood. By the way, Nepal still continues with this tradition. So growing up together, the potential partners got to know each other. If they cannot find a common ground, it's not a big deal at the age of 15. They might split and look for other partners. Thus, they find a partner fitting the energy level and development stage. There are no divorces in Nepal, despite modern, liberated, westernized families. At least that's the scene of 2001, as I think, when the royal Nepalese family massacre took place. The family was supposedly executed by the crown prince, who committed suicide afterwards, and later on the helicopter with a royal pretender to the throne on board was blown up. Then the only regent was left. Anyway, the democracy came over to Nepal. The first sign of democracy there was plenty of bottles floating in the river. Same as I told you of chewing gums in Russia. Nowadays, the river is embarked of plastic. If a country has to develop the economy, what's the way to go? Following the concept, living life to the fullest, to boost up our consumption, right? That's what happened. I got to know about 0 divorces from a Nepalese guy some 15 years ago. So according to him, the reason is in thoughtful approach in partners selection, considering the development level and energy of both. Well, I don't know how modern people, energetically undeveloped and following their senses cravings, can apply such approach. Let's get back to the matter of energetic parasites. Imagine one parasite rests on your shoulder, imposes some feelings on you, and you take your partner as the love of your life, and it makes you propose to the partner. I hardly understand how people live like that. I'm off the game. Fortunately, my story was different. That's why whenever I see married people with 0 energy, I feel pity for them. Anyway, I'm not here to criticize them. They manage as they can. Back to your question. I don't know. Engage yourself in self-development if you have a chance. But I feel so sorry whenever I see useless family living. Too much of energy is wasted there. I promise to tell you about a picture-perfect family. In ancient society, family sent a kid to Gurukula, which is kind of an ashram in India, a shrine of knowledge, living math and physics aside. In the ashram, a teacher taught a kid how to live. This is one part of his job. Another part is identification of the caste. The teacher had to determine the kid's caste. Being born in a family of warriors didn't make kid a warrior himself. Later on, the system was corrupted as the elite wanted to see their kids within their caste, even if they're not eligible. That's how such kids can become Brahmins on the quiet. That's how it works now. It used to be the other way around. The teacher only was authorized to determine the caste and the mission in life for the kid. So the kid were coupled to make a harmonious union. An energetically developed kid was coupled with the same partner. Others interested in craft or happy to cultivate carrots should unite to live in a harmony, right? You see? The best case scenario is when a teacher chooses a life partner. Others also can match kids using astrology. But the Guruji job on caste determination is super important. It's a win-win situation, as partners are on the same level. In other words, the partners have same odds if energetic problems are considered. If they are meant to overcome some obstacles, they will do so together and will step up. Nowadays, as a rule, one partner is destined. One lesson, another is destined. Something else, boom, in 3 years, love is up. Same bed, but different dreams, right? By the way, I do not recommend spouses to sleep in one bed. Try to convey my message to your partners, referring to one strange Verba. Say that Verba says that normal men and women used to sleep apart in ancient times. Shudra and Vaishya castes only slept in one bed as they didn't have much to lose. I mean, it's no good of frequent mixing up of male and female energy. It leads to problems. A man sleeping with a woman adopts female vibes and vice versa. Thus, a woman becomes a strong-head female with a pen in hand, and the man tends to drink beer and turns very weak. Okay, friends, good. I hope you found the talk useful and you came to proper conclusions. Please don't take my word. Don't take my word. I am sharing information only. Some part of this information was found in open sources. Some from secret sources. Others came from my personal experience. Thus, don't blindly believe me, but learn it firsthand. In that case, you'll be happy and I won't experience karmic consequences.